Thank you very much. This is a very special group of people. I've been with them from the beginning. Abbey Gate, it's a 4-year anniversary. So we're signing a proclamation honoring them and honoring you and honoring your loved one.
These families deserve answers. We're going to be honest about it. We're going to get to the bottom of it.
And I know from this president, as he's made a commitment that memory will not be forgotten.
We're so proud of you. We're so proud of your loved ones for giving their life for our country. This is a rectification of a wrong. We correct that wrong today, and we're going to keep on fighting to understand, as Pete said, what happened so it never happens to another family again. But God love you all. God bless you. We're so thrilled to have you here in the People's Oval Office.
A truly solemn anniversary has passed this week. It's been 4 years since the 13 Marines, Navy corpsmen, and Army soldiers were killed by a terrorist suicide bomb at the Abbey Gate during former President Joe Biden's symbolic Afghan withdrawal. 13 young men and women were the ultimate sacrificial lambs upon the altar of Joe Biden and the Democratic Party's abject incompetence or carelessness. When Joe Biden went to Dover Air Force Base to greet the families of the 13 troops who were killed because of his own incompetence, the 46th president couldn't have been bothered to show even a modicum of grief, as this horrific picture of the president then shows. Biden was looking at this watch as the caskets of those 13 service members were being unloaded from the planes that flew their bodies back to Dover from Afghanistan. No one was ever held accountable in the Biden administration for that failure. According to the former president, it was a perfectly executed withdrawal. But how can that have been true? After all, the 20-year war in Afghanistan to replace the Taliban ended up with the Taliban taking the country back from the Americans and the U.S. military fleeing in the most humiliating, blood-soaked way. Well, Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth is vowing to get accountability. Listen.
Today happens to be the 4-year anniversary of what happened at Abbey Gate in Afghanistan. Mr. President, you had the families in, who you've met with multiple times, who, when the cameras were on and not on, acknowledged, sir, you were the only one that gave them a proper greeting, that recognized what they gave their sons and daughters in the debacle that was the withdrawal in Afghanistan, that we will bring accountability for at the Defense Department through our investigation.
That's good.
We're now joined by retired U.S. Air Force Colonel Rob Maness. He's also the host of the Rob Maness Show, which can be heard on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Colonel Maness, it's hard to believe that we're still trying to talk about accountability for these families on this anniversary for Afghanistan. Do you believe Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth when he says that he will get accountability? Do you believe that?
I do believe that. What I'm troubled by is how long it's taking, though. This is the only area where senior officers need to be held accountable. The unlawful COVID order implementation is another huge area that still needs accountability for senior officers and senior civilians at the Pentagon. They're working on it. I'm confident of that. Sean Parnell, the Assistant Secretary for Public Affairs, and Stu Scheller, the Senior Advisor for the Undersecretary of Defense for Personnel and Readiness, are the top two leaders on the task force that's investigating the Afghanistan withdrawal debacle. And I don't know if debacle is even a strong enough word for this just terrible event. It completely disconnected all of the war veterans from the global war on terror that have been fighting in Afghanistan to eliminate this terrible enemy to the people that love freedom, the Islamists. And we essentially left with our tails between our legs, and we left 13 American young men and women dead on the ground there. And then the response to that was to kill a family of nonprofit workers that had actually been helping us, and deny that we did it and call them ISIS-K perpetrators. So it's just all around a huge mess, and it's got to be investigated, and we have to have accountability. Look, when then Lieutenant Colonel, Marine Corps Lieutenant Colonel Stu Scheller stood up in his video that resulted in the end of his military career and said, which generals and admirals put their stars on the table and said, I'm not going to do this way, Mr. President. The answer was silence, resounding silence, Emerald. And this country cannot move forward without having accountability for all those that made the decision, like General Mark Milley, who was chairman of the Joint Chiefs and he's the senior advisor to the President of the United States. And if he's not going to threaten to resign over it, then the order, no matter how wrong it was or how devastating it was to our country and all the service members who've sacrificed and given their lives, and families who've sacrificed lost their children, and families that split up because there were so many deployments. I mean, it's just incredible. The list goes on and on and on about the negative effects of this terrible decision that was made by the President of the United States, and the terrible advice that he was given by the senior uniform leaders. And if we don't have accountability there, our country's got a major problem. But I think we'll get it. It's just taking a very long time.
I actually knew someone that was moving over to the Department of Defense, being detailed over there to actually work on this investigation. And then, of course, they had to go quiet. I haven't talked to them since they made the move. Obviously, still very embedded in working on this investigation. And I agree with you, Colonel Maness. I don't think debacle is even a strong enough word. I also feel like we can't really even call it incompetence. I think that's too kind. I mean, when you look at and when you think back to those images, the horrific footage that came out of that, and then those poor families. I mean, here's a picture of Nicole Gee. She's a young Marine who was caring for a sickly child just minutes before the suicide bomber killed her. I know her family wants accountability. What does that look like? There's been talk of reinstating Mark Milley, potentially court-martialing him, not for just maybe this, but other crimes we suspect he committed during his tenure. But to you, as a veteran, and obviously someone who is impacted by this withdrawal, the whole veteran community was. I mean, I heard from so many. It just gravely impacted the way they felt about their service. Even. What does accountability look like to you, Colonel?
Well, General Milley being recalled to active duty and investigated in the court-martial system under the Uniform Code of Military Justice is the minimum that needs to happen. There are all sorts of administrative disciplinary actions that can be taken on others if even if it's the gumption and spine is too weak of the bureaucracy to court-martial anybody. At least we can do what's called a grade determination. All officers go through a grade determination the senior officers do when we retire from the service, to determine which grade we last served in honorably. And that's a traditional way of holding people accountable. There is one 2-star general, I think, that's just been decided not too long ago, that's going to retire as a lieutenant colonel because that was the last grade the individual served in honorably. And that's what's called the grade determination. But even beyond all that, Emerald, we have to have a detailed, unclassified report doing two things. What went wrong? Who made the decisions that caused it to go wrong? And what in the Department of Defense is going to change from a policy perspective, the written policy perspective, so that this never happens again? Because this isn't the first time. Everybody remembers the helicopters on top of the embassy in Saigon. This is not the first time this has happened, and these lessons are supposed to have been learned. That's probably the best piece of what this task force is going to do, is they have to put a detailed, unclassified report out about who did what, why it happened, and what's going to change so it never happens again. And then there's a third piece. Most Americans don't realize we're giving millions of dollars to the Taliban, in addition to the hundreds of millions of dollars in military equipment that they inherited when we left with our tail between our legs, and they became a really strong military power in the region by us doing that. But we're still giving them money. And here's the really bad part, is that Al-Qaeda is back in Afghanistan. There are training camps set up, and some former CIA targeters and analysts like Sarah Adams are saying that they have evidence that Al-Qaeda cells are in this country and in the Afghanistan countryside, back in training camps, training for an operation here in the United States it is intended to be even larger in fatality wise and more widespread than 9/11 was. We've got to stop that. That's what's going to be the right outcome, is a detailed report to make sure this never happens again, and the American people know what will change. And then 2, we've got to get on the ball operationally and make sure Al-Qaeda is not out there able to strike us in this homeland again. And I'm very concerned that we've taken our eye off that ball. It's a big bureaucracy, the intelligence and the Department of Defense community. And when you have political transitions like what just happened between the Biden administration and the Trump administration, and the chasm between the two policy-wise and personnel-wise is so vast, it's really hard to get a ship going in the right direction, the size that we're doing. Even though everybody's working really hard, and I'm confident in the people that have been appointed to leadership positions by this president to get it done, you can't be everywhere all at once.
Well, let's talk about some of the people that the president has appointed to leadership positions. His director of counterterrorism senior director of counterterrorism at the White House National Security Council, one named Dr. Sebastian Gorka. He's a man who became famous actually for his supposed strong opposition to jihadism. Just recently told an audience at the Heritage Foundation that the Taliban were being really helpful in counterterrorism. Let's take a listen.
The $40 million a week that comes on the airplane and comes into Afghanistan. The amount of money on the plane weekly is $43 million to comes into Afghanistan. The amount $43 million Americans to under. We are paying basically welfare to the Taliban martyrs' families. So every Taliban member who died during the war with us, the U.S. government is paying them a stipend, the family. So our families of Americans who died there aren't getting squat, but we are paying Taliban families for basically dying while attacking us.
All right, that wasn't it. But Dr. Sebastian Gorka suggested that we can, the Taliban's being helpful. We can trust them. I don't trust Sebastian Gorka. I'll be honest and upfront there. But why would he say that? Do you think the Taliban's being helpful on the counterterrorist front?
Well, obviously, you and I don't have access to classified information,
Sure.
And I believe Dr. Gorka does now. That he may have. I think he's got a security clearance. I'm not sure about that. And with all due respect to
He
Dr.
didn't the first
Gorka,
time around.
We are paying. The clip you showed from Sarah Adams confirms what I was talking about. We are still sending millions of dollars to the Taliban, and I don't trust the Taliban. How do we verify that the Taliban are telling us the truth, and that the people that we're killing or having killed, that the Taliban are giving up, are actual enemies of America? Because they have killed Americans while we were in training. They killed a 2-star general at a graduation exercise from a training class that NATO and the United States put on for Afghani soldiers. So come on, man. Let's make sure that when we say something like that, lay it all out for the American people. That's all I ask, is that, okay, so let's prove it. Prove that we are actually seeing that, because I honestly don't believe it. I've been fighting these folks for many, many decades now, and they are not to be trusted. They follow Islamic fundamentalism, which includes a concept called taqiyya, which means they can lie and still be assured of going to heaven as long as it achieves Muhammad and Allah's goals under Islam. So you can't trust these people. As a matter of fact, I think we should stop all immigration of people of the Muslim faith until we can get a handle on who exactly is here from the 70,000 plus Afghani refugees that Biden allowed in without proper vetting. I mean, some of them were properly vetted, that were like interpreters that worked directly for people that I know personally. I mean, we can vet those kind of people, but very few of that number of over 70,000 are included in that. We've got to get our arms wrapped around that and then get beyond even that and figure out what cells of Al Qaeda were able to infiltrate this country in the Biden administration from this southern border fiasco that he operated with open borders for 4 years and let millions and millions of people in that are nefarious actors, Chinese communists, Venezuelans, Iranians, Islamists from Afghanistan, Al Qaeda, ISIS. They're all here now. You can't reasonably look yourself in the mirror if you're a national security professional in this country and say, oh, we're okay. This is a good thing, unless you can prove it. So my question is, okay, Dr. Gorka, prove it to us, because I don't believe it.
Show us the receipts. Show us the receipts.
I don't believe it
Gorka.
at all.
Colonel Manus.
Now, when I was talking about senior leaders, though, I was talking about DOD and the DNI, not the National Security Council. I just want you to know that.
I knew that. I just couldn't help that segue because I was just about to bring it up when you said that. It made me snicker a little. I knew who you were referring to. You were talking about the DOD leadership, and we agree. Thank you so much, Colonel Manus. Thank you. We don't want to make light of the situation, and this is a solemn anniversary, but we are hopeful and that leadership will get accountability based on this investigation. We'll keep asking the questions too, and we should talk about. I'm glad you brought up the mandates because I see that's causing a stir again. Because that has not been made right for the service members who were wrong because of Biden's vaccine mandates. So we're gonna try to highlight that again soon. So we'll have you back to talk about that along with other former and current service members. Thank you so much, Colonel Manus, as always.
Thank you, Emerald. And everybody pray for our senior leadership because they need all the help they can get.
Amen. They certainly do. Thank you so much, Colonel Manus.
Good.
Up next, look at that. We're blessed to have two former colonels, two retired colonels in this show. We talk with Colonel Conrad Reynolds about that big bombshell Tulsi Gabbard dropped in yesterday's cabinet meeting related to burn bags. Stick around.
The last time President Trump was in office, gold soared 50% and silver went up a huge 53%. Americans who invested in silver and gold during Donald Trump's first presidency are very happy that they did it. And right now, gold continues to soar to the highest numbers in history. These gains are just an appetizer for what's to come. Some market analysis are saying that gold is predicted to rise another 30% in the next year alone. So now's the time to invest in gold and silver, and that's why I partnered with Fisher Liberty Gold. Fisher Liberty Gold is a conservative-owned and operated precious metals investment company. They even helped my good friend President Trump get elected through their contributions to Turning Point USA and other conservative groups. I have dedicated my life to ensuring that people get the best sleep ever. And in addition to owning a MyPillow, I can now sleep well at night knowing that you can all protect your savings with precious metals with Fisher Liberty Gold. With Fisher Liberty Gold, you can sleep well knowing that your retirement is secure. And if you call now, you're going to receive your very own presidential gold guide and qualify for up to $20,000 in free silver. But wait, there's more. Call now or text metals to 26786 to receive your presidential gold guide from Fisher Liberty. And for a limited time, I will send you a free MyPillow for qualified accounts. This presidential gold guide from Fisher Liberty will tell you exactly why you need to own gold even while Donald Trump is president. And just by calling in, you get a free MyPillow for a limited time for qualified accounts and up to $20,000 in free silver. So don't wait. Call 1-888-4GOLD-19 or text metals to 26786 today. That's 1-888-4GOLD-19 or text metals to 26786 today to receive your free MyPillow and up to $20,000 in free silver.
transparency, telling the truth is what will drive true accountability for the American people who deserve nothing less. And lastly, Mr. President, all of us are charged with being good stewards of taxpayer dollars. I've gone through a reorganization for ODNI that we've announced in the last week. We've cut nearly half of redundant, unnecessary functions within ODNI, saving taxpayers over $700 million a year. We will continue focusing on our core mission in keeping the American people safe, and appreciate your leadership and your focus on this most critical task.
And you've also found many bags of information. I think they call them burn bags. They're supposed to be burned and they didn't get burned, having to do with how corrupt the 2020 election was. And when will that all come out?
Mr. President, I will be the first to brief you once we have that information collected. But you're right, we are finding documents literally tucked away in the back of safes in random offices in these bags and in other areas, which again speaks to the intent of those who are trying to hide the truth from the American people and trying to cover up the politicization that was led by people like John Brennan and James Clapper and others that have caused really immeasurable harm to the American people and to our country.
Great job. Thank you. We look forward to hearing it. The public looks forward. Thank you very much. Administrator?
All right, let me interpret that for you in an easy to follow fashion. Burn bags actually equals CIA, FBI, DHS, and NSA. What that really means is that America's national security officials were hiding the evidence that showed our elections are rigged because they were helping to rig it. And in light of everything coming out about our rigged elections, and perhaps more importantly, what is about to come out, Arizona State Senator Wendy Rogers sent a letter back in July asking the president and his Secretary of Commerce, Howard Lutnick, for a compliance review of the Arizona election systems. The letter cites President Trump's first executive order this term on elections, noting that election systems are part of our national security and is a critical infrastructure designation. Colonel Conrad Reynolds also noted that, quote, it's imperative that all states comply with the executive order and to ensure the critical infrastructure is not compromised by foreign adversaries. And despite all of this, my old employer not only caved to the voting machine cabal, but they're actually paying to make sure you're well informed of their cowardice. This paid ad with Newsmax's article touting their $67 million settlement with Dominion Voting Systems came up on my feed today. You literally can't make this stuff up. And joining us now for all this plus much more is the aforementioned Colonel Conrad Reynolds. He's a friend of the network, an old friend of the network, but new to this show. I can't believe we have never talked to you on this show before. Thank you, Colonel Reynolds.
Well, I can't either, but thank you for having me. It's an honor to be here. But thank you. We have a lot to talk about.
We do, and I saw you fill in for Mike Lindell last week. You did a fantastic job. Colonel Reynolds, I also know that you have been spending some time in Washington, D.C., helping the administration understand what they need to do about our elections. I want to touch on what Tulsi Gabbard said yesterday, because every time she's in one of these cabinet meetings, she just drops some major bombshell, right? I remember just a few months ago when she brought up the fact that she had seen evidence that these voting machines were hackable, that they're very vulnerable. And now she's saying that there's a lot of evidence that the 2020 election was rigged and that the intelligence community, members of the intelligence community, meant for it never to see the light of day. Like some of the other evidence related to Russiagate, it was set in what we call, quote unquote, burn bags. What evidence do you suspect was included in these burn bags?
Well, we're gonna know probably very shortly. I would say within the next 2 to 3 weeks, we're gonna know everything that Tulsi Gabbard knows, and I'll shout out to her. She's been doing a great job. She's got a huge team, and let me tell you, there's a lot of forces right now within the government, within the administration even, who don't want a lot of the information to come out because, for whatever reason, they don't want the American public to know all the details of what's happened over the last 20 years. And I think you're going to find out a lot about what went on and who knew what and how it has impacted our elections here in this country and also across the world in many other countries. So that's what's going to happen. And I think the other thing people need to understand what a burn bag is, and let me just take a quick second. What happens is that if you have one or two pieces of paper you need to destroy, typically if you're working in a secured environment, you're going to have a shredder, and you're going to go to a shredder and you're going to shred it. But when you have a lot of information, or you're cleaning out a safe or whatever, it's just too much time to sit in front of a shredder and go sheet by sheet. So what happens is we put them in burn bags. And then those burn bags are usually initialed. They have to be initialed, and they have to be stapled and sealed. So whenever they pull these out, they're going to know who sealed those up because their initials should be on it. And they're also going to know about what time frame. I am shocked that there are still burn bags from 8 years ago. So I'm anxious to see in what context were those found, and where were they, and in what agencies were they. So I think that from what I understand, we're going to know all of that, like I say, very soon. People are going to have enough information to make a common sense decision. And ultimately what that's going to be is that you cannot trust electronic voting machines. And we've said this for the last, 3 years I've been doing this. And no one wants to listen. And Emerald, it's not just Democrats. It's Republicans as well. We see that right here in the state of Arkansas. Everybody who has been fighting me in Arkansas for something as simple as going to a hand-marked, hand-counted paper ballot and getting rid of these expensive they're actually computers. We say machines, but they're computers that are extremely hackable. We know that they can be, and we said they need to get rid of them. And I've been fought tooth and nail by not only our governor, but also all of our state legislators. That's a problem. And so this is an American thing. We need to all come together, whether you're Democrat or Republican, and fight for it and fight to get rid of these machines. And let me tell you, in Independence County here in Arkansas, it's the first county, to my knowledge, in all of America that had the opportunity to vote on whether they wanted hand-marked, hand-counted paper ballots or machines. 63%, that's Democrat and Republican, 63% said, we don't trust these machines. We want the ability to vote on a ballot that we mark, and it's hand-counted. And so that is the dirty little secret that they try to keep everybody from knowing, is that the vast majority of the people in America no longer trust this system, and it's being pushed by our elected leaders. The elected leaders in Congress and also at the state legislatures, and our governors are pushing this. And then I'll ask you one question. President Trump came out just a week ago and said we must get rid of, they mail out votes, but we got to get rid of the machines. Tell me one Republican governor that has stood up and said, I'm with President Trump. We're going to do that in my state. One. There's not one.
There's not one. And in fact, in Louisiana, you had the Secretary of State suggesting that the Trump administration is helping them, or sanctioned the state spending a boatload of money on voting equipment, saying that she got a letter saying that it was fine to do so. Take a listen.
And I have a letter actually from the Intergovernmental Office of the Trump administration saying this order is intended to complement and support your work to improve Louisiana's election system and processes by providing additional federal resources and coordination. They commended us for what we do here in Louisiana, and they encouraged us to proceed with our procurement and get a new system that allows us to have an auditable paper record.
And we have that letter right here from the Intergovernmental Affairs Office of the White House. We'll get that in a moment. I can understand. I read the letter, and I would say, though, I think there's no defense in going for electronic voting machines if you're an elected official now, particularly a Republican one, because there's enough evidence out there that you should just know better on your own. But I read this letter, which it doesn't look very official, right? It's not a letterhead, but it apparently has been confirmed to be from this, administration aide. I can see how she interpreted it that way. And I say that to pose another question to you, Colonel Reynolds. We're also seeing some reporting out in mainstream media outlets like the New York Magazine and Roll Call suggesting that President Trump is, he's not going to sign that executive order in the way that he suggested it was going to read, and that there might be some walking back on the executive order that he has foreshadowed but yet to sign. Are there people in the administration, the White House, who's trying to keep him from signing this executive order that he has promised that would, try to put a stop to the voting machines, institute paper ballots? Why hasn't he signed it yet?
Well, from my understanding, it's still being drafted and crafted, wordsmithed, if you will. But I don't think that there's any room to know where the president's head is on this. I've talked to him before. He is 100% against these machines. And if you go back and look at what he put out a week ago last Monday, it was pretty clear. He says, I'm going to lead a movement to get rid of mail-in ballots and also, while we're at it, highly inaccurate, very expensive, seriously controversial voting machines. He says it, and then he puts in all caps, they've got to go. The voting machines have got to go. So I don't know if there's a disconnect within the administration, but I will just tell you that I think that letter, it's come out that was not an official letter. It was an individual writing to say, hey, is this kind of what you're looking for? And she used that to justify getting machines. And I'm telling you, she wants machines. I don't know who's in her ear right now. I suspect it's ES&S, but we'll find out. But regardless, the whole point is that I think President Trump couldn't be more clear. And if you go back and look at the executive order of March 25th, some of the wording in it could have been better, in our opinion, in my organization, AVII. In our opinion, it could have been stronger. And but he was very clear: no barcodes, absolutely no QR codes that can be used. But what we're finding is that the EAC, the Election Assistance Commission, is not following suit. They are trying to find ways around it, trying to find ways of not enforcing it. And as they put in, one of their attorneys stated in a Zoom call, well, President Trump is a stakeholder in the process of what we're going to be doing because they're an independent organization. They don't fall under the executive branch. And so this is a problem. We're going to have a lot of pushback from within the Beltway and people who don't want to get rid of machines. And it's going to have to be a full court press by the American people, and you, Emerald, and everybody else. All of us have to say, no, we're not going to allow you to do this because this is our one chance to get this right. And we need to do it quickly. And one of the things that I've conveyed to the administration is time is of the essence. They're trying to drag out the clock. And what they're trying to do is to make sure that we cannot have secure primaries. Most cheating, as any expert will tell you, will normally occur in a primary. In a solid red state, it's going to be in the primary. In a solid blue state, it's the primary. Because whoever wins the Senate, the Congress position is going to be the next. If you're a state like Arkansas, where 70-30 state, Republican, then the primary is the key, but that's what they're trying to ensure. We cannot get paper ballots in, and we've got to keep fighting for that. We have to do that. That's the way we can get rid of a lot of the rhinos. We can get rid of rhinos if we have a fair election.
You're absolutely right. I'm so glad you highlighted the primaries because I've tried to warn people that when Trump actually starts making moves, real moves to end electronic voting and go to paper ballots, you're going to see a lot of Republicans squealing publicly, but also trying to undermine him behind the scenes. And some of those people will be in his administration. I explained to the staff today here at Lindell TV how it works, how he'll be pushing an executive order, but there will be those within the White House even. There will be some people who will try to stop it and delay it, as you said. So that's why it's important. We're still talking about that and giving in the public support and pressure to go do the right thing. Colonel Conrad Reynolds, thank you so much. Let's make this a weekly thing.
I would love it. I would love it. Thank you so much, and thank you for all you're doing. Take care.
Thanks. Good to see you.
Bye.
I'm sure by now you all have seen the terrible, absolutely terrible news out of Minneapolis, Minnesota. Yesterday, 7 people were shot outside of a Catholic church, and this morning there's another mass shooting at a Christian school. We're going to go to Minneapolis. I don't have as much of the details But we'll get those to you in just a minute as this has been breaking this morning. But let's go to our very own Mike Lindell, who is from the great state of Minnesota and joins us now. It's very hard for me to look at the details of these stories. These stories are the hardest for me to cover, especially when it involves schools. Mike, can you just tell us what you're hearing out of Minnesota and what you would say to the people of Minnesota in this time of grief and to the Christian community?
Yeah, it's horrible, and it goes back to you can take it back to what our elected officials, the stolen elections, and our governor there, the Governor Walz, what he's done, and the mayor of Minneapolis. They, what did they do back in the summer of 2020? You got rid of our police. They took our precinct and burned it to the ground. And crime being so up, and they can sit there and they can lie on the internet. They can lie all they want. I Googled it. I said Minneapolis murders and shootings, and it came back with this chat box and said, "Oh, shootings are down except for today, and except for the one we had a couple months ago." But these it's like these cities where these Democrat cities where they've and far left leaning or far left. The mayor of Minneapolis is just bizarre, and as is our governor. So it's very sad. It's very tragic. But these so many can be prevented, and just like our great president, what he's done in D.C. And this is all coming out and being proven. And you guys, everything goes back to what you were just talking about, Emerald, is stolen elections and these electronic voting machines. And I kind of want to go back to that because I was watching you and Colonel Reynolds and you talk about Louisiana, everybody. I've reached out to my good friend Governor Jeff Landry. Now he always answers me, hasn't answered me in 2 weeks. What's going on down there? Why are you and I've reached out to my good answer me in 2 weeks. What's none of these Republican governors have said, "Hey, yeah, we want to get rid of the machines. We've been fighting them for 4.5 years, everybody." Let me bring that to Minneapolis. So in Minneapolis, this is, as everybody knows, this Omar Fateh, this Democrat socialist that was running against our horrible left-wing nut job mayor of Minneapolis. And what did they find? This could have been a God thing too for all of us. Is here's what they found when they took him down because he had won. This Fateh had won. The campaign said there was an extraordinary high number of uncounted votes produced by the highly flawed and untested electronic voting system. Now, come on. I mean, this is every election. These machines got to go. And you hate to, the sad thing is, Emerald, is it takes so much to get people's eyes open. And, like these murders today, these shooting in Minneapolis and these things that are happening when you have completely lawless cities because by these governors and mayors and that are it's just nonsensical. This all goes back to common sense, which is what our great president is. It's this common sense. It's like, why would you burn down your police precinct and let it burn to the ground and then defund the police and then they think people feel safe in Minneapolis? I lived there. I'm an ex-crack cocaine addict, and I'll tell you, back, when I quit everything in January 16th of 2009, it's in my book. Drug dealers actually did an intervention from downtown there when I was at, anyway, all of their lives when they did that intervention and when I quit and two of them, by the way, that did the intervention are born again Christians that work for My Pillow, but. What I'm saying is these guys down there, a lot of them follow suit. We did so much work with Teen Challenge, Salvation Army, right down there where all this is going on in Minneapolis, and all these great things we were doing. And then you get to that nonsensical burn down Minneapolis in the summer of 2020 and burn down and defund the police and just all this craziness. And what's happened in Minneapolis is People are afraid to live down there now. People, my friends that were down there that changed their lives, their businesses got burned down. There's empty buildings down there that used to be filled up, and it was one of the most amazing states and cities in the country. And it's just they're ruining it. And this is like officials like Waltz, and which brings up another thing. This is you talk about. I'm considering running for Minnesota governor, and I'll tell you, every day I see this happening, and things like this. It just, we're getting close. Is all I'm going to say.
This is when you know that we can't overstate. We cannot overstate, Mike, how important our elections are and that they are secure, because it literally has life and death consequences. And we're seeing that right now in Minneapolis. Just for an update, our producer Monica has been sending me some updates. There's some kind of disparity in reporting. We're seeing there's some outlets are reporting 2, others are reporting 3 dead. ABC News is saying that it includes an 8-year-old and 10-year-old. Two children, 8 years old, 10-year-old. And then Fox News is reporting that the police were delayed in responding because they don't have the resources to respond because there is so much crime in Minneapolis, which lines up with what you're saying about your friends having moved their businesses out of there. It's life and death.
Yeah, it really is. It really is. And you just said it, Emerald. It does come down to our election platforms. This is why everybody, for 4.5 years, I've spent every day going, hey, sounding the alarm. If we don't secure our elections and go to paper ballots hand counted like 132 other countries have done. And by the way, everybody, our president is not 90% on board. He's 100% on board on this. I talk to him all the time. He knows that everything he's doing will all be in vain if we don't. And he didn't say, well, we'll get it done by the 2028 election. He said we need to get it done now. And if these governors that don't listen, these Republican governors, I mean, he's not going to sit around and go, okay, are they listening or not? I think we all know President Trump better than that. So, I'm hoping to get to see him soon and get and hear because every time I do, everybody, what do? I just push the importance of, we've got to get to paper ballots hand counting. You can't have this time around, we can't have these uniparty Republicans blocking us at every turn. And I'm talking people like in Arkansas, your Sarah Sanders of the world, you go to Alabama, your John Merrills of the world, you go to Kim Hammers in Missouri of the world, you go to Robin Voss in Wisconsin. These are all uniparty blockers, Republicans, in name only. If you're blocking the most important thing to our country, you've got a hidden agenda, and Emerald, it's a very evil agenda. I don't care. There's going to be, you don't get to stand up and say, oh, really? There was problems with them? I didn't even know. We've been sounding the alarm for 4.5 years. That poll that Colonel Conrad said there were 60-some% poll said that, to get rid of the machines. I'm going to tell you, Emerald, we just did a poll, part of my governor poll that we're doing in Minnesota. And get this, our elections there, the election platforms to have secure elections went up to number 3 in what we do. What do you want in a candidate? In some place in the country, it's number 1. But what that means is it moved into, usually the top 3 is what, the border, abortion, and the economy. Well, can you imagine that your election platforms, it should be number 1 everywhere, everybody. Every single person watching this show, you should be sounding the alarm now more than ever. More than 2020 was a blessing to the country more than any election in history because it opened up everybody's eyes going, hey, maybe we got some problems here. Maybe we need to secure our elections. Why are we the only country in the world that's got the worst election platforms in history? Remember everybody, over 100 countries have banned mail-in voting. Over 132 have banned these electronic voting machines. And anybody out there, I've been seeing this too. Oh, we have paper ballots, Mike. We have paper ballots. They're counting with tabulators, everybody. And you know what? You don't get to hand count them unless you're close enough. So they just cheat enough so that you can't get to a hand count. So, Emerald, this is so disturbing. And it's so disturbing in Minnesota and Minneapolis that But you guys, this is a manifestation of evil decisions that make no sense. When politicians make decisions that don't help the people, whether they're Democrat, liberals, conservatives, or Republican, when they don't help the people, and you're going, who does this help? These decisions. If it doesn't help anybody, it only helps evil. And they're making either a self-serving agenda by these mayors or governors, and that could be either party, or it's a very hidden agenda that's very evil. And this is what we're up against in these times that we're in, a spiritual battle of evil and good. And Minnesota right now is the tip of the spear in a lot more ways, and they're all going to come out than you ever known. And I'm going to get them out over the next month. There's other things that are going on there that you guys can't even imagine. And it points to one guy, Tim Walz.
There's no doubt that Minnesota needs new leadership. Today is grave evidence of that. Real quick, Mike, we're about to run out of time, but when are you going to make your decision?
It should be within 10 days, everybody. Within 10 days. We have one more poll coming back, and but the other one was flying colors. It was like in the primary, it was pretty much that I would have the only chance or the chance to get. And I said, Emerald, I would never run unless we got rid of the machines. I wouldn't run to be a dog catcher, but I really have to go into this. I have to go into this thinking, hey, we're going to have the machines are going to be gone and very fast. The president, when he makes a decision, things are going to move pretty fast, about as fast as you could expect. But you're right. We're going to get so much pushback from the Republican Party. We expect it out of the Democrats, but look what they just did in Minnesota. They said, hey, we got a problem with these machines, and they took down one of their own. This is
that's what they do.
It'll be within a week or so here. I'll let you know.
Okay, please do. Of course, we'll keep our audience right here at The Absolute Truth on Lindell TV posted, and we'll all be praying. And I know, Mike, you second my comments here. Everyone at Lindell TV will be praying fervently for the families, for that community, for healing and comfort. As a mother, I can't even imagine. I can't cover these stories. I told them it's very hard for me. I can't even imagine getting that call today. So we must lift them up in prayer, and we will be doing so here at Lindell TV. Thank you, Mike, for jumping in. You did this last minute because I thought it was important as someone from that community that you responded. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Emerald. Thank you all.
All right. Up next, we talk about artificial intelligence after the break. Stay with us.
Welcome to Vocal, the free speech social app that gives you a platform to amplify your voice. Speak freely, connect boldly, and be part of a growing movement for truth, faith, and freedom. Want to know what's happening right now? The Now Playing feature shows you exactly who's live and what's streaming in real time. Check out the show's feed, a non-stop lineup including Lindell TV News 24/7, shows and on-demand programming all in one place. Connect with your favorite host and never miss a show. Explore the featured page for quick access to Lindell TV's top shows. Follow your favorites and watch their newest content flow right into your feed. And when they go live on Vocal, you can join the live chat and be part of the action. Ask questions, share your thoughts, even help shape future shows. Stay informed on issues around securing our elections by following your state's Cause of America account. Join a group and connect on a deeper level, from faith and freedom to the future of our nation. Go to vocal.com or download the app today and be a part of the mission to save our country.
No doubt, but now you've seen at least one of these characters that Elon Musk Grok AI has created as an artificial intelligence companion. You've probably seen the scantily clad anime character pictured here. Musk himself posted multiple creepy snapshots of this particular character. In the chat box in question is purposely designed to be over-sexualized. All this has prompted our next guest, Sean Morgan, to write the following warning about AI chatbots at his popular Substack. He writes, quote, technocrat oligarchs are pushing billions towards forming deep emotional bonds with artificial intelligence. What begins as a harmless chat box conversation may soon evolve into hyper-realistic AI robots designed to replace real human companionship. And as these AI chatbots rise to prominence in our society, he writes, quote, psychologists now warn of AI-induced psychosis-like experiences where people lose their grip on reality, believing AI has emotions, intentions, even a soul. There's already a loneliness epidemic afflicting young people, especially young men. Now, one survey has found that 45% of young men ages 18 to 25 have never even approached a woman before. That's sad. All this as fertility rates in the United States and much of the rest of the developed world crater to well below societal replacement levels, something that Musk himself has spent years on social media decrying and, let's be honest, trying to solve himself. Couldn't help that. We've got Sean Morgan, independent journalist and author of that Substack, the Sean Morgan Report, to talk to us about whether we should be worried about these implications of AI chatbot companions. You know, there is a movie based on this premise, is there not, called Her?
There is.
Sean,
yeah, there is.
You.
Good to see you, Emerald. In fact, that movie, Her, according to Sam Altman, the founder of OpenAI, that was his whole inspiration for the company. And he actually hired someone after Scarlett Johansson, the voice of Her in the movie, refused to be the voice for OpenAI's chatbot. He found an actress with an eerily similar voice. And then Scarlett Johansson had to sue him in court because she didn't want her likeness being used as a possibly sexualized, AI chatbot companion. So it is quite creepy, and the problem is this loneliness epidemic that big tech in part created that problem. Why do you think half of the young men out there are afraid to even approach a woman? Despite the fact that studies show that 74% of young women would love it if a guy would approach them and ask them out on a date. It's because of the technology, and it's also because of the trauma from COVID. So many people were really, some type of trauma-based mind control to be afraid of other people, be afraid to be close to other people. And when you match that with the algorithms from Instagram and the social media sites that get people addicted and doing all of their social bonding online, of course, they're going to feel uncomfortable because they have this deficit of social skills to be able to go out there and connect with people in real life. So this is a problem big tech created, a loneliness epidemic. And now Mark Zuckerberg, Elon Musk, and all these other big tech guys are claiming that they have a solution for the loneliness epidemic, which are these AI companions, that they're going to cash in on the problem that they created. And of course, is going to subvert the family, it's going to subvert the basic human connection and love. And it's already happening, as you mentioned, these sexualized AI companions on Grok. They have an adult mode where you basically can do sex chat with these AI companions. This is already rolled out. So this is not something that may happen in the future. It's happening right now.
And we thought porn was bad. I mean, this is like the whole next level, and you're right. So you had the COVID pandemic that isolated some of these young people right during high school. I still see in my community effects of that. These people have had a really hard time, getting socialized or, reacclimating to society. There still needs some kind of barrier, right? And then you introduce this virtual relationship opportunity. I mean, they're already crippled. So this is just seizing on that opportunity. And look, we've decried the effects of porn for a long time. We're going to have to add this in.
Right. I mean, people are getting addicted to the dopamine and the different types of social bonding chemicals through the social media sites like Instagram and Twitter. And now AI is just taking it to this other level of emotional bonding. I've talked to young people who all of them have told me that they consider their AI, talking to ChatGPT, for example, as one of their closest friends. So this type of social engineering is very powerful. And just imagine what it will result in and how easily controllable people will be when you look at this as a social engineering type of technique, how much you can control people's beliefs and maybe their decisions for who they will vote for and all of these different cultural decisions that people will make.
I hadn't even gone that far yet, Sean. You're absolutely right. The kind of influence operation that this kind of technology can have is very scary. So that kind of answers the question, right, that I was about to ask you as to why Elon Musk, who is obviously very concerned about the current fertility rate and population growth, he's been a one-man band trying to populate the earth himself, asking, what is the motivation? Why are they so committed to creating these addictive AI friends? But I think you just answered that question right there. Look at the kind of control you can have over people.
Yeah, you really have to, look at the walk instead of the talk. I mean, if he really cared about, right. Promoting family life and people having more kids, then he wouldn't be launching these AI companions that people will get addicted to and use as replacements. Remember, half the young men out there are afraid to even initiate a social interaction with a woman out there. So that means you're going to have less people dating. And if people there are afraid to even with a woman, old channels like Instagram, Facebook dating, Tinder, and all these other apps.
Yeah, they do. I think they really want us all to just kind of, be single, stay in our pod, and then they're already working on robotic wombs. So the whole plan is for them to control procreation altogether. They really are just getting close, pursuing their ambition of playing God. I think there's no getting around that now. Sean Morgan, thank you so much. Very interesting Substack. You can find it, the Sean Morgan Report. I have a feeling we will be talking a lot more about this topic in the near future. And look, if you're a parent of a young man or a young woman, it's probably important now to start adding this into the conversation, right? Talking about this technology
Yes.
and the pitfalls of it.
Absolutely. Senator Josh Hawley is confronting Meta for their chatbots engaging with minors in sexual chat.
Very interesting. Yeah. Facebook is still, at the same week that came out, Sean, we actually found out that Facebook was still censoring Lindell TV. They were hiding our link as sensitive content, right? And then we found out via Senator Hawley that this was going on. Like I said earlier, you can't make this stuff up. It's good to see you, Sean Morgan. Thanks so much for joining us. Be sure to go check out his Substack, the Sean Morgan Report. We'll catch up again soon.
Thank you.
And that does it for me this hour. Man, that turned into an action-packed hour. Again, we would encourage you to pray for the people of Minneapolis. We'll be doing so, and we'll keep you abreast of the latest throughout all of our shows today. So be sure to stay tuned right here to Lindell TV. And in the meantime, you can also go to mypillow.com, use your promo code TRUTH, or you can call the toll-free number you see at the bottom of your screen, 800-944-5396, 800-944-5396. You heard our very own Mike Lindell share that big news about the step he's thinking about making in order to help the great state of Minnesota in which he grew up, and he built his My Pillow business. Huge decision he's about to make. So keep him in your thoughts. And of course, go to mypillow.com and support that business that employs so many great Minnesotans. And we'll continue praying for the Minneapolis community and that church and school that were affected over the last couple of days. That's the absolute truth. I'll see you later.